Hi everyone, it's Michelle. Welcome back. So I know it's been a while since I filmed a video. Everything's fine. Life has just been a little bit busy and I don't know, I haven't been in the mood to film. And for those of you who don't, for those of you who have YouTube channels, you know that you have to be in the mood to film a video. And I don't know, I've had a hard time getting a little bit into the holiday spirit and I just haven't been in the mood to film. And so I thought I would try to get back on track today because I had a little bit of time. So I wanted to talk about today a new brush that I got. So I did break down and purchase the new Goss holiday brush. So I do believe it's still in stock at Beautylish. I believe Beautylish is the only place you can get it, but I do believe you can get it. Beautylish ships worldwide, so I think anybody can pretty much get it. It is a beautiful, beautiful paddle brush. It is a wood handle with a lacquer overlay. You know, his name is lasered on right here. There's no name on the brush, but it's this year's holiday brush. And it's just a beautiful paddle brush. So here's what I'll say about the brush. I've had it I got it the very first day you could get it. And I started using it right away, and I love the brush. I kind of waffled on whether I wanted to get it or not because I have so many brushes this a little bit almost the same shape. But Wayne's brushes are typically quality-wise phenomenal. I don't own all of them, but I own a lot of them. And after I watched his video where he talked about, you know, how the brush was designed and what he made it for as a finishing brush, I wanted to have it and try it. So it is a beautiful paddle brush. You can see that. It is very flat, so it's very much pinched. Hopefully you can tell. It's very narrow. It is super, so the bristles are very soft and the brush is very, you know, loose. So it's not dense at all. So it moves very easily. And the bristles are so soft. I'm not quite sure. I looked pretty much everywhere to try and figure out what kind of hair it was. It's definitely natural hair. I'm just not sure what kind of hair it is. But it is a beautiful, beautiful brush. I like this brush, yes, as a finishing brush. So you can just, when you're done with everything, just sort of buff over the face and make sure that it just sort of takes any lines away or anything that needs to be, you know, blended a little bit more. It just sort of handles that beautifully. I also love this for bronzing my face. And by bronzing, I mean, I just like to take a little bit of bronzer, especially this time of year, and, you know, buff around the outsides of my face. I do just take a little bit right in here to give my face ever so slight a bit of shape. Not a contour. And I love it for, you know, putting a little bronzer under here just to shape my jaw a little bit and blending it down my neck. It is beautiful for that. Beautiful. Like if you have a really pigmented bronzer that sometimes it's hard to get on without it being too heavy, this is lovely. It's lovely for any bronzer really, or even for just finishing. I can't say enough about how soft it is. So it is expensive. I believe it was $115. It's beautiful. Whether it's worth the $115 or not really is subjective to you. I appreciate luxurious brushes, and this is a luxurious brush, and it comes with a luxurious price. I love it. I have not had any shedding. I've washed it. It's just so soft, and like it just is like, this reminds me, this is one of the few brushes that I own that reminds me of how soft and lovely my Suku cheek brush is. If someone were to ask me like what my all-time favorite brush is ever, and I'm looking for it because I just used it. There it is. It's my Suku cheek brush, and it just like when you tap them, like it feels like a little kitten's paw just touching your face. It's the softest, it's the most luxurious experience, and this feels like a big version of that. I love it. I thought I would compare it to a few other brushes I own for those of you who are curious about it and maybe wish you could see it and feel it before you bought it. So I pulled out a couple of brushes I use in a similar way, and so I could compare it for you. So the first one I'm going to compare it to is the one I have been using the most for sort of this bronzing around the edges kind of thing, and that is my MAC 135. So this has been a favorite of mine for quite a while now, since it came out, and I love it. But so here's the difference. His brush is bigger. obviously. It's also narrower, so you can see this is much more pinched than the MAC version. The MAC may be slightly more pointed at the tip. No, I don't think it is actually. But the softness, the MAC is also not dense at all. Like, you know, it's very, I don't want to say flimsy because that makes it sound cheap, but it's not dense. So there's a lot of movement in the bristles, but there's no comparison in softness. This actually is not an overly soft brush. It's natural hair, I believe, goat. It's soft, but it's not Japanese brush soft at all. So there really is no comparison between these two. I also, the other brush that I tend to use for doing my bronzer like that and finishing is this Eco Tools brush. This is, I believe, the powder brush, large powder brush. It's also pinched, but not nearly as much. You can see how nice and narrow this one is. It's super soft, but it's synthetic. It's also not dense at all, like this one's not dense, but it's much thicker. So, you know, this is probably the closest to functioning the same way as the Wayne Goss brush, but it's so much thicker. And because it's synthetic, it doesn't grab and blend product the same as a natural bristle brush will. Okay, so let's move on to some higher end brushes. So I will compare it to my Tom Ford bronzer brush, which is very, very soft. Not as soft, like when you touch this one and then you touch this one, this is so much softer, which some people will say, how is that possible? It just is. This is also much thicker, as you can see, and it's much more dense. It doesn't have the same kind of movement this one does because it's thicker is part of it, but it's just more densely packed than the Wayne Goss brushes. This is a beautiful, beautiful brush for bronzing and other things. You could use it as a finishing brush too, but there is just something about this one and how soft and light it touches the skin for that finishing, you know, that just for finishing. It won't move any of your makeup around. It just sort of gives you that beautiful, beautiful finish to the skin. This is a lovely brush. It's also very expensive, not quite as expensive as this one, but you know, lovely, but not the same. I have a couple Hakuhodos as well. I don't have the numbers because when I bought mine, they didn't put the numbers on them. But the first one I'm going to compare it to is this angled version. These Hakuhodo brushes are very soft, very similar in feeling to this one. Like when I touch the top, how soft it is. This one is very, very close in softness, but it's very dense. It's very thicker than this one. It's not, this is the one the reason I pulled out the angled version is it's not dense, so it's very similar to this one where it just, there's a lot of movement in the bristles. But again, not as expensive, but would do the same job definitely, but, and not as expensive for sure. I think this was still a fairly pricey brush, but so this, I think, would be the closest thing I own to feeling like this one and functioning like this one would be this Hakuhodo angled brush. And I don't know the number. If I can figure out which one it is, I will list it below or list it here or whatever. But this is the closest thing I have. I have another Hakuhodo, this one, which is much more, is soft, very soft, but because it's more densely packed, you don't get the same, but it's a lot more pinched as well. But it wouldn't function the same because it's just too dense and it'll move things around, whereas this one, it will just blend and like make everything lovely. So will this. But this brush, so for me, here's what I will say. For me, this is a beautiful, beautiful brush that I will reach for continually. I am not sorry that I purchased this. It feels amazing. It functions amazing. It's, like I said, it's a very high quality brush. Yeah, so I do think, for me, it was worth the money. Not everybody will agree that, you know, brushes are worth that kind of money, but for me, I love a luxurious brush, and this is definitely luxurious. It does function exactly how it was designed to function, and I just love it. So I think it is definitely, for me, a must-have. I do believe they're still available. It is going to be limited edition, so you need to get it quickly, I think, if you want it. And again, you can get it at Beautylish. I believe that's the only place you can get it, so I love this. If you got the brush, please leave in the comments your thoughts on it. I think it's amazing, so that everybody can see what other people think about the brush. That is it for today. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will talk to you all again soon.